There's a whole generation of highly educated folks so obsessed with success that they're conformist, they're complacent, they're so thoroughly tied with mobility they lose sight of the deeper question of what it means to be human, what it means to be a citizen.
Question, my brother. Well, I grew up much of my childhood in Glen Elder. That's the chocolate side of Sacramento, School Park, Del Paso Heights. And I was deeply influenced by what took place in Shiloh Baptist Church on 9th Avenue in Oak Park, going from Glen Elder to Shiloh Baptist Church, Reverend Willie P. Cook. I was deeply influenced by the presence of the Black Panther Party that was right down the street from Shiloh Baptist Church. My brother had already been deeply influenced by what was going on in the Bay Area because he was a track star. He'd gone to UC Berkeley and so on. Now, when I was 14, I moved to Southland Park Drive on the other side of Sacramento and attended Kennedy High School. And there we had a number of student body presidents who shut down the high schools in order to ensure there was more concern with black studies. Glenn Jordan was at Sac High, Michael Mann at Burbank. I was student body president at Kennedy. So there was a wonderful moral and spiritual awakening that had taken place, especially among young people at that time. And so Sacramento in many ways was an ideal place for me to go. A lot of love. Well, I mean, it's true for any city, any state. You have to have courage, compassion to work through the tensions, not deny them. And you have to be willing to be vulnerable in your conversations, to be self-critical. It's true for anybody, no matter what color you are. To be open, and be critical, and be vulnerable enough to take a risk so that you can grow and develop and mature and be transformed in the conversations. I think there's always been, we say racial tension. You're really just talking about the vicious legacies of white supremacy in America and the ways in which it makes it difficult for us to keep track of each other's humanity. And that's been precisely the case in Sacramento, Oakland, Chicago, New Orleans, New York City, Greenwich, Connecticut, wherever one goes in this country. We had major riots at Kennedy High School. They were racial. There's no doubt about it. That was in 1968, 69. And we had similar events in other high schools. So it's always there. And of course, again, you got the presence of precious brown brothers and sisters, precious yellow brothers and sisters. And there's always been, of course, a progressive slice, a significant progressive slice of white brothers and sisters who were in deep solidarity with struggles for justice and struggles against white supremacy and other evils, male supremacy or whatever.
Thank you.
Were you born and raised in Sacramento?
Born in Modesto and then Bay Area and then all around, but kind of always within an area code.
But your formation is much more diverse than mine in terms of the time I spent as a young person here, just in Sacramento.
Yeah, John F. Kennedy's over like in the pocket. It's about like 15 or 20 minutes from here.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Sacramento today? What have you done?
Well, I arrived late last night. Early this morning, got up at 5 o'clock. I went to the school, Jerry Manuel sponsored school, young black, brown brothers and sisters out in Alberta, California. Magnificent place. Mel Kukovic, who was my dear friend Wilson Wood for 50 years. He's a vanilla brother. I love him to death. He loves me to death. He works as a volunteer. He set up a meeting, so I spent 2 hours there at Jerry Manuel and the others, and I drove to Stockton, where I had another gathering with educators, and then I drove back to the state capitol. There's a wonderful group called the Hundreds Unit, which is a gathering of an organization of black women concerned about issues of health and wellness and self-respect. And we had a gathering there. And then I went home to see my mother, and then brought her to this event. They gotta be true to themselves, but disillusionment should not lead to a lack of participation. It should lead to a lack of activism. should lead to a lack of truth-telling, should lead to a lack of witness bearing. There's nothing wrong with despair and disillusion. That's a sentimental American sentiment to think that somehow you should be disillusioned. You should be despair. When your mama dies, you ought to be despairing. When your loved one's gone, you ought to despair. You got to learn how to wrestle with despair and not allow despair to have the last word. Same is true with disillusion. Nothing wrong with being disillusioned when you got such truncated, narrow, mediocre choices, but you don't allow your disillusion to lead toward being debilitated, to apathy and indifference and so forth. So the young folk ought to remain active, critically, intellectually, morally, spiritually, before the election, during the election, after the election, next year, 5 years, 10 years, down the road, down the world. But life is not Disneyland, it's not Disney World. I'm never disillusioned on Main Street in Disney World with Mickey Mouse. You don't say. Now come back to reality. I have nothing against Mickey Mouse, and don't get it wrong. Nothing against Disney World is a lovely place to go. But I know that's not reality. That's not reality. And that's what I think our young folk, who I think, you saw the Bernie Sanders campaign and so forth, are undergoing a magnificent moral and political and spiritual awakening. And it's a beautiful thing to behold.
But I come from a hated people who understand that love of self and others is profoundly emancipating and liberating of mind, heart, soul, and we're going to be true to the John Coltrane, true to the Nina Simone, we're going to be true to Stevie Wonder, we're going to be true to Ida Wells Barnett, we're going to be true to Frederick Douglass, we're going to be true to Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, and Helen